ticket closure and help me and make sure my thinking is not off. So in a couple of MSPs that I've worked with, ticket count on how many were closed, there was kind of a goal, right? They didn't use it to rate the performance of a particular help desk tech, but the thinking was that you should be closing 10 to 12 tickets a day per tech as a whole, for like 30 days out. And I mean, like for instance, if someone's closing 5 tickets a day on average per tech in a help desk environment, I feel like they're being underutilized. So I mentioned that to Brendan. I said, what is your experience in that? And he says, I would never use that as any kind of measurement. I said, I'm not trying to rate somebody's performance on a daily basis. I'm just, as a team in a holistic view, what should you be closing per day in a kind of normal MSP environment? And he just wouldn't give me an answer.
Yeah, I wouldn't give you one either.
Yeah. So here's where so what he came back with was the utilization rate. Like that's a better, and I thought, well, but isn't that the same thing? Because somebody could spend 6.5 hours on 3 tickets and they're still 80% utilized, right? So either way, you still have to have coaching and performance improvement involved in getting the number up, I guess was kind of my, and then he talked about kill rate. And I understand kill rate, but I don't know that kill rate gives you any better indication of what the performance should be. I mean,
it doesn't.
You could have 200 tickets come in, and you're only staffed for 100. I don't know that kill rate gives you.
So I use kill rate as simply an indicator to the manager. I don't let my tech see it of how is volume, because sometimes volume change indicates I have to approve overtime, hire contractors, or great time to allow a vacation or a sick day, those types of things.
Right.
But I don't use that as a metric or a KPI.
Right.
Now, number of tickets closed. The reason I don't use it is, one, going from MSP to MSP, everybody's job is different. Everybody's ticket type is different.
Yeah.
I've seen many issues.
When you say everybody's, are you talking about everybody on the team is different, or the MSP is different from other MSPs? And I know there's some truth to that too.
Yeah, it's both.
Okay.
So for example, I've seen many help desks where for whatever reason, one guy is either assigned, gravitates toward, or cherry picks.
Right.
And he closes 18 tickets a day in 15 minutes or less because he got all the easy ones.
Right.
Or at least the ones that he's good at. And
right.
maybe that's not a bad thing. Another tech only got to 6 tickets a day, but they were fully utilized.
Right.
The tickets were a little bit more complex, and he solved them right the first time and clients love them.
But here's where I'm going. That's 24 tickets between those 2 techs. The average is 12 tickets per tech. I'm just trying to get an average. I'm not trying to use it as a measurement for any particular technician. I'm trying to evaluate the capacity of the team.
All right. So most people use utilization or hours per ticket for that, because number of tickets is not an
ticket. Okay, so hours per ticket.
So if that particular team on average spends 45 minutes per ticket on average, now you take that by their utilization. So say utilization average is 75%. That means you have 6 hours of tickets per technician closing. And if they do one every 45 minutes, why did I pick hard stuff? Hang on. 6 hours times 3 divided by 0.75. That means they can close on average 8 tickets per technician per day.
Right.
So then you can figure out how many tickets are you getting per day and how many technicians do you need to close those on average. You could do that.
So what would be a reasonable hours per ticket goal?
It depends on how you're set up. This is the whole challenge with the one size fits all. Without that, I don't know. Are you talking about your help desk team? Are they only doing one touch and close? Do they have a 30-minute time limit, or did you give them 2 hours, or do they just solve everything to the best of their ability at tier 1, regardless of time? All those things have an impact.
Yeah. So there's really no. So trying to think of a different way to ask to.
I think you're talking about capacity planning,
I am. Yeah.
and there's not especially for smaller businesses, there's not a one size fits all approach. I mean, if we had a single system you should follow, we could say if you follow the system, you should hit these numbers, but no one's following a specific system.
Yeah. Because here's the thing that I get sometimes, right? When I'm in my consulting, is we don't have time to work on processes during the day. He's been doing all the processes himself. And I'm like, dude, it's going to take forever if you're trying
and have a low adoption rate.
Right, right. I said, we've got to get the team involved in this. We've got to change the culture. And he said, we can't do it during the day. We're just not. I said, okay, let's talk about ticket count. And so that's when we got into the whole discussion. And they're averaging closing 4 tickets per tech per day. I feel like that
sounds low.
It does sound low. And that was kind of what generated the discussion with Brendan is I said, hey, before I make a judgment on this, let me reach out to my service desk guy. And that's when he and I got into this conversation about he wouldn't recommend.
When I have this objection, what I tend to hear instead, and you're right, capacity comes up all the time. We're too busy. They always say that.
Yeah.
Usually they're too busy up by not having processes.
Right. Right. Right.
So if they would just spend an extra few minutes per ticket writing up the process that they're working on right now, as they should be doing in their notes anyways.
Right.
Then it gets reused by the next person.
Right. That's exactly what I said to him. Yeah.
Sometimes I like approaching it because there's so many freaking variables, which is why I hate that number.
Yeah.
Right. Like some people could say that and they forget to tell you they have an outsourced help desk that handles all the tier 1 stuff. Right.
Right.
Like, okay, well, that's totally different metric.
Actually, we ran into that exact scenario. We actually ran into that with him. They have an outsourced guy in the Philippines.
Yeah. And is he counted in that metric? And
yeah, he wasn't initially. But yes, yeah.
And that's why we can't give as hard and fast numbers.
Yeah.
I like looking at capacity almost from the macro level, which is how much revenue per employee do you have? I like at 150K per employee as a minimum necessary and a 250K per employee as a best in class.
Right. Now that's across the organization, right?
Yes, across the entire organization.
Yeah.
And then when you have
that's good. So 150 is the very bottom, and that's kind of
trying to make a profit of some sort, a penny somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. And then 250 is someone who's probably running at a high capacity.
Yeah, and so because you have other variables like, are you charging enough?
Right.
Do you actually know how to design a trouble-free network, or do you just let it go? Are you standardized?
Yeah.
There's all these things that can fix capacity problems besides just I need more people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I honestly feel like anytime I've developed a process while working the issue, it's taken very little extra time. It has taken some extra time, sure.
Of course.
But it's not much.
Of course. Yeah. Well, and my argument is, what's the alternative?
Not the way you are?
Exactly. Exactly.
So my most recent example is I wrote a payroll process for tricksters. Mm-hmm. This was a complicated matter, and the first couple of times I just winged it because I didn't know what I was doing yet, and I like, okay, I can get through it every time by myself now. And so then I started writing what I did just while I did it. It took an extra maybe 5 minutes in a 30-minute process.
Yeah.
And then the second time I tried following my process, and there was a few vagaries and out of order things. I fixed those. It probably cost me an extra 5 minutes, even though at that point my 30-minute process was now 20.
Right.
And then I added 5 more fixing my process. And now I can run the entirety of payroll in less than 10 minutes thanks to the process.
Wow.
All right. So what were you saying?
So Bennett asked, in my experience, is it normal? In your experience in normal MSP, what should an average help desk tech tier 1, tier 2 be able to close per day by ticket count? And my response to this is that it's really a dangerous question, an even more dangerous way to measure an employee's performance, because some tickets take 5 minutes, while others takes 30. So you're simply going to incentivize your techs to go for the 5-minute tickets because they know that they're being measured on ticket count. So the 30-minute tickets are going to be neglected, which is now affecting the techs who are working the harder tickets and the client, because now their harder problems are being delayed because we're measuring in a way that we shouldn't.
Yeah, and I said something similar, a different way of saying it. And what he was grasping for is really capacity planning.
So when I look at capacity, I look at a couple of things. If you're going to measure client utilization minus meetings, like internal meetings, as long as they're meeting, what, 75, 80%?
So,
or kill rate, how many tickets are they killing compared to what they're getting assigned?
now, I'm not a fan of kill rate either because they can't always control the supply of tickets.
True.
Okay, I do agree with what you're saying. However, he says my client is averaging 4 tickets being closed per day per tech. Is that too low? And the answer is hell yes, that's too low. So there is some kind of standard.
Or yeah. But how long did those tickets take?
Right, 5 minutes each. They still need it for. I actually ended up recommending we zoom out and look at the macroeconomics of revenue per employee for general capacity planning. And even that's not perfect because is the service priced right? Are we standardizing our networks to reduce problems? Are we really good at designing networks that reduce problems? There's so many variables at that to plan for capacity. I think we ended up on, for capacity planning, is looking at utilization rate on a macro average. Everybody, let's say we're 75% utilized of an 8-hour day, so we can do 6 billable hours, not billable, wrong word, 6 utilized hours per day per tech. And then what is the average hours per ticket you're getting? And that math comes together to tell you, how much volume you can handle with your current staff before you even look at the efficiency. What I found the most interesting though is why this topic came up, and then I remembered why I hate this topic so much. The topic comes up because we're too busy to implement processes. And I used a bad word when I recorded that one, but it was you can't mess up's better. You can't mess up fast enough. And that's usually the excuse behind it. We're too busy to write processes, so we keep making mistakes that causes more tickets or makes tickets take longer.
Time invested in the process will run twofold.
Yeah, at least. And I also find the time to write the process, I think people overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to take that long.
No, you're right. It doesn't. And then refining it, which is minimal.
Exactly. Like I learned how to do payroll for Tricksters recently, and I winged it the first couple of times. I had no idea what I was doing. Once I figured out how to muscle through it, I wrote a process as I went last time. It probably added 5 minutes to a 30-minute task. Therefore, the next time it took me 20 minutes plus another 5 minutes as I was refining it, and now I can do the whole thing in 10 minutes a week. That's way more than twofold return on my time for that.
That's true. And now people can follow that process, and you've just expanded your knowledge.
Yeah, and I currently don't have people to follow that process for me, but even myself, I know the process, but even for myself, it saves me time.
Well, I'm glad we had this discussion because I've been in areas where ticket volume, ticket closure was the primary source of are we efficient, which led to some pretty bad morale issues within the tech team and worse repercussions for the customers.
I feel like it's equivalent to treating the symptom and not the problem.
I would agree with that.
Kind of share the story and how easily we get wrapped up into those little details that we can see and want to act on, but we need to take the time to zoom out and go, here's the root cause problem, let's fix that.
And that's fixed with process.
Yeah, and I don't want to stop anybody from measuring anything for educational purposes. I definitely wouldn't display them to the team. Right? Put this on your own private dashboard if you want to see what's going on. It can be a troubleshooting tool, but not a measure of performance for sure.
No, I agree with that 100%.
All right. Thank you.
I appreciate your input.
Does this include your TED Talk?
This concludes my TED Talk for today.
Nice. Thank you. I love the fact that we're all able to compare notes like this and learn and discover through differences of opinion and how we've approached things.
Perfect.
Right.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Laters.